Hello, thank you for joining me back. So in previous videos, we were working on really trying to keep your balance systems as good as possible. And a big part of that is in how good your feedback systems are. So we talked a lot about grounding and allowing your feet to have a conversation with your brain about what the floor is like that you're standing on. And the more we can use our feet for our balance system, the more efficient we are in our own balance. So the more we use our feet and our legs. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about what happens with our eyesight, perhaps when we become less mobile. And it tends to happen when we start to build up a little bit of fear of moving, or particularly we might start to see it when we start to walk outside and become a little bit more anxious maybe when we're walking among crowds and busy places or uneven spaces. And what often happens is that although as we get older, our eyesight isn't so good for close-up reading and things like that, our eyes start to take on a role of being big feedback for our balance. And you will notice that when maybe you watch some people and they're intently staring at the ground, they're looking at where they're going and watching every single step that they take. Now, you might think that, okay, if we're using our eyes more, that's got to be a good thing. But the problem with that is that our brain can only really focus and pay attention to so much. And if it's paying attention a lot to what our eyes are telling us, it's not then able to pay attention to what our feet and our legs are telling us. So it tends to switch off some of those really good feedback systems from our feet. So what I like to do when I see people, when I'm discussing this with my own patients, is to give you an exercise to do where we allow ourselves to focus purely on feedback. Well, it's not purely, because we get feedback from our ears and other things, but more on feedback from our feet than we do from our eyes. So I'd like you just to show you a little exercise. It's quite important that you do this with a surface in front of you. I'm doing this with my glass table in front of me. Do it in the kitchen as we've done previous exercises before. And play around with it. Some people find that initially they can only close their eyes for a couple of seconds and then it feels quite unpleasant, because our eyes become quite dominant. They like to dominate our feedback system. And when we close our eyes and try not to use them as much, they're not very keen on it and give us a lot of feedback to say, what are you doing? You need me. So I'm just going to stand up. It's a very simple exercise. But what it does in cutting out the way that we're using our eyes, it allows ourselves to reawaken the communication that we need to be having with our feet. So it's as simple as holding onto a surface and standing, grounding ourselves in the same way as we did before. So paying attention to your feet. Just let yourself take a deep breath in and out. Become aware of your heels on the floor. Become aware of your toes on the floor. Become aware of the outside border of your feet and the inside border. And just pay a little bit of attention to whether you're getting more feedback from your left foot or your right foot. It's quite common. Most of us have a dominant leg in that we tend to listen to that leg slightly more. And I'm going to come back to that in a moment. Just have a little sway. Allow yourself to get feedback from your feet with your eyes open. Maybe notice where you're looking when you're doing this. Are you staring directly at the floor and getting quite a lot of feedback from your eyes? Or are you able to do it and let your eyes just completely relax and just be aware of the whole environment, your peripheral vision. I'll come back to that another time, as well as the central vision. So are your eyes able to relax and get the whole picture rather than intently staring at the floor. So allow yourself to relax in that position, just become a little bit more aware of your feet. I've noticed I've got my hands still on the surface in front of me. And what I want you to do is I want you to close your eyes and keep that awareness on your feet. Just notice how that feels. Maybe put a little bit more weight through one leg. Notice that leg. And then the other leg. Now, if you're able to do that in quite a relaxed way with your eyes, keeping your eyes shut, then you can move on to the next progression, which is taking your hands off. Because remember, we're wanting to direct your attention to your feet and your legs because they are the most efficient way of you balancing. Now, some of you might have found that the minute you took your hands off with your eyes shut, that your brain didn't like that. And it was immediately, it made you feel a bit, and made you put your hands down again. So if that happens for you, then you can play around with maybe taking just one hand off and then the other. And then just maybe for 1 second. And then you're gradually building up so you can keep your hands off for slightly longer. And then, of course, once you can do that and still smile, still feel okay, then you can add in a little bit more movement. Now this is really good, particularly good for improving your attention to your ankle. I have an injury to my ankle, which I call a sangria injury. I won't go into the details, but it has resulted over many years in me not listening terribly well to good feedback from my ankle, and it's gradually created quite a weak ankle. But what I found is that the most efficient and most effective way, as following on from any of the normal physiotherapy exercises that I've done for it, the most effective thing that I've done for that is actually working on standing balance with my eyes shut on that leg, because the better I can communicate with that ankle, the more switched on all the muscles are, and of course then you're going to get a much more efficient and stronger feedback system, and an ankle which is there for you very, very fast whenever it needs to be. So just to recap with this exercise is that you're playing around with using your eyes less and paying much more attention to your feet and bringing into that. Now, I'm not suggesting that you walk around the room with your eyes shut or anything like that, but what I really want you to do is do it close to a surface so that you know that you've got something there for you. If you can have a chair behind you, that's great too, because if your balance means that and you need to sit down, great. So it's a simple exercise of working on grounding yourself, as we did in previous exercises, so that you're aware of your feet, and allowing yourself to take your hands off with your eyes closed and performing whichever movements feel good for you. And this is a really nice exercise that really is quite important for everybody to be doing, even people who are quite advanced at yoga and are able to balance really well on one leg. Just working on getting much, much better communication from your brain to your feet. So I'll leave you with that one today. Stay safe. Stay within what feels nice. The whole point of these exercises is to build your confidence in moving and confidence in your balance. So don't push beyond something that's going to feel nice for you. Thank you.